Today we're going to make a case notes form. In order to do that, we're going to start off by selecting New and go down and select Form again, just like we did with assessments. It's going to load the page and it's going to give us an untitled form. We're going to title this form Case Notes. And clicking up here, we'll give the title up here. And we want to make this a little different. We're going to make this a drop-down list. And we're going to client name, make it required. And I'm going to make a date field. Instead of multiple choice, I'm going to go down here to date. And I'm just going to put date. And remember, you can put the time here if you want as well. Going to the next question, we're going to go in and we are going to put a new drop down, and this drop down is going to be called staff member. We will also make it required, but we were not going to populate it. We're not going to fill it in because we're going to get it off the assessments list. But before we do that, before we populate staff member, I'm going to move on and to the main part, which is a case note. This is going to be the case note. We're going to change it from multiple choice to a paragraph, so it can be long if need be, and we're going to make it required. For now, that's going to be pretty much it to build our basic case note, other than we haven't populated this. The main challenge for this is to be able to send it in two different places. The spreadsheet, that's going to collect all the case notes for all clients, but we also want to send this to an individual document so that we can see all case notes plus the assessment information for every individual client. And we will get to that in just a moment. For now, what we're going to do is populate our staff member. So we got our staff member, and we do it just like we did in the assessments. We're going to click on that. It's going to be Form Ranger. It's the only one we have. We're going to add some more later. But for now, we just want Form Ranger to populate staff member here. Remember, we have it in a drop-down. Okay, now that Form Ranger is loading, we'll simply do it just like we did before. Right now it has two items, client name and staff member. We're not going to populate client name. We're going to populate that in a totally different way than we are going to do staff member. For now, we're just going to populate from values list on staff member. Once I do that, it pops up again, and we're going to do it just like last time. We're going to look for our lists. There it is. We have our lists. It's already selected staff members. And we're going to go next. We're going to call it, just like we did in assessments, staff member. And it came from the list spreadsheet. I'm going to save and populate the question. And as it works, we're going to go down, and there it is. It populated staff member. So now that we have that, we're going to let it know to populate or to refresh the list every time you submit a form, and we want to refresh it every hour. So we're going to get out of Form Ranger. Okay, our next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the form response sheet. And even though we haven't populated our staff, or I should say we haven't populated our clients, that's going to happen. But for now, we're going to go into responses. And we're going to create our response sheet, create a new spreadsheet, and it's going to load. Okay, and it did create it. We're going back to questions, but we also want to look at the new response sheet, and there it is. It pops up in our folder, in our Drive folder, under our HMIS folder that we created earlier. And there's the case notes. Of course, we see that nothing has been entered, but that's okay. That will change, and we will have some case notes pretty soon. For now, we're just going to go back to this form. When we submit a case note form, it's going to send the information to an individual's case plan sheet. We want it to go there in addition to the case notes response spreadsheet. The case notes response spreadsheet is good to hold all of the case notes for everybody, but we want to have every individual to have only their case notes and only their assessment scene on their own case plan sheet. In order to do that, we need to go back to our assessments form. And so we're going to click back on the assessments form. Now we're back on the assessments that we've created in the first video, part 1 of the case management system, and we're going to go back into the add-ons, and we're going to go back here to shop for another add-on. Add-on is called Form Publisher. Right here it happens to be the first one we see, so we're going to choose it. It is free. Well, when I clicked on it, it's just going to give me more information. What I need to do is click on this free bar, and that will help me install it. So we're going to go down, we're going to allow it to have access to our Google Drive and our form. This gives us some information about Form Publisher. We've got it. So we're going to go Form Publisher and click Started. Form Publisher will publish a brand new document or spreadsheet every time you submit an assessment. What we need is a document, because later on we're going to use another add-on called Doc Appender that only works with documents. It doesn't work with spreadsheets, so we have to choose documents here with Form Publisher. It's going to ask you, do you already have a Google Doc to use it as a template? We're going to say, no, please create. It opened up a Form Publisher template. What we can do is look at where it's at, and we're going to go back into our drive. Form Publisher template is right here. Let's open this up. Now, as we can see here, our client name will correspond with the assessment client name here. Okay? So what Form Publisher did is it made a copy of client name, and then it put it into the template, and then it put these little greater than, less than markers around the name itself. Again, what these are called markers. What Form Publisher will do, will put anything inside these markers that was submitted in the form to fill and replace what's in here. Like, for instance, if I'm going to assessments, I'll put client name. We'll say, suppose we type in Joe Brown. Over here, the form will publish Joe Brown right in here. But it'll create a brand new document. This is only the template. We can manipulate this and make it look any way we want. So let's just say I want to go client name. Suppose I want this bolded. Bold it, and I'm going to make it larger. And that will be client name. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to make all these bold. Don't want to take too much time here. Oops, don't want the data bolded. I just want the questions bolded. And I'm just going to make this assessment. And the next thing I want is case notes. The case notes will actually be appended after the assessment. Any case note you'll write will go underneath this case notes word. And I want it 18, I want it bold. There we are. We have the case notes prepared in the template, and we have the assessment prepared in the template. The only problem is we have our template called the Form Publisher template. That's not going to be good, because every file it generates is going to have the name Form Publisher template on it, and we don't want that. What we want is the client name to be in here. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to delete this, and we're going to put client name. Now the client name will be the same as the file name. We want to make sure everything is spelled just exactly as it is here, which is spelled exactly as it is in the assessments. Right here, client name, everything needs to be spelled exactly like this. Form Publisher is taking this from the assessment form and it is transferring it to the template here. If you're going to type it in ourselves, we want to make sure it's typed in exactly like Form Publisher has it here. We got the Form Publisher template. We're going to allow the Form Publisher to know that we've changed something in the template, and so we're going to change, and we're actually going to pick the same form, or I should say the same document that Form Publisher has published as a template, but all we did was change the name. So I'm going to select client name, and I'm going to select. Okay, and now you can see all it shows is a marker, a blank marker, which is what we want. It acknowledges that we made a change. Just to show you the markers detection, we have 9 markers matching. Everything's working good in Form Publisher because we asked it to make the template for us. All we did was change the name of the template. Now we're going to show you just a little bit what happens if you try to do your own template. I'm not going to go too deep into this. Let's just say veteran status. We're going to change that to veteran status. We're going to go back into our assessments form, go back into Form Publisher, and we're going to refresh the marker detection. This is the marker detection button right there. We have 8 markers matching instead of 9. One question is not in template, and veteran status. This also says veteran status. You can close it by clicking on it. Okay, what it's saying is it doesn't detect this marker in here, and the reason why is because we have a misspelling in there. This veteran status right here isn't spelled exactly as up here in our template, this veteran status here. What's missing is an S, and we deleted it just to show you. Now we're going to put the S back, go back into assessments, and we're going to refresh our markers detection. Now that we've refreshed it, go back and we see 9 markers matching. So everything matches, everything's good, and we're ready to go next. Now it says, do you already have a drive folder to put all documents created into? We're not going to say, no, please create. We're going to actually create our own this time. After we do, we're going to select yes. We're going to go into Google Drive, and we are going to put in a new folder, and this folder is going to be called Case Notes. Okay? Case Notes have come up. The form, whenever we submit a case note from the case note form, it's going to send that data into Case Notes as well as the Case Notes response spreadsheet. And we'll show you how that looks in just a minute. We are going to go back to the Assessments folder. And now that we've created our Case Notes folder, we're going to click Yes. We have created our own folder. And there's Case Notes right there. We're going to select it. And we've only got 3 folders in our drive, but that's okay. We have Case Notes selected. Now it wants to know, first of all, Form Publisher is telling us the destination folder and naming. So all things that Form Publisher is going to publish to, that's going to create a document for, which will actually work as our case plan sheet, will be in this folder right here, Case Notes. So our generated file title, this is where we help it to know what we want to call every name of every form that's being published. And what we want is client name. It has to be exactly like this. It wants to ask you if you want to put the increments on. Form Publisher keeps track of every time it publishes a new document based on your submission. It's important to keep track of the increments because the way Form Publisher works is it will give 100 free published documents every month. This is great for small missions because if you're not going to have more than 100 new clients every month, then this will be free. We deleted the increment. All the files are going to be called under the client's name. We are going to check on Save Generated File URL, and we will also save the increment as well. That'll all come up in the spreadsheet. We're going to hit Next. Now here it says Notify people via email. I'm going to uncheck it. Most case managers I know won't care for it simply because if you're a case manager, you're working with other case managers, suppose you're off duty, you don't want an email coming to you every time a case manager does an assessment on another client. So we're going to hit Next. it says our form is ready. We're going to try it, and we're just going to fill in this form. We're just going to go one client, first name, and we're going to go here 10, and we're going to submit it. Now, in the case notes, open it up. One client first name is right there, and we open this folder up, and we got client name, one client first name. Oh, everything we just submitted went to this as well. This is going to be their case plan sheet. To make it more customized, we're going to change this to case plan sheet. We're going to say case plan 4, but of course they won't stick because I need to put the changes in the template. From now on, we're going to go back to the HMIS folder. We're going to go into templates. We didn't put our template in here, and it's right here. We're going to move that to templates. Shouldn't hurt anything. And we're going to go in here. Going to change this to case plan 4, and then it'll be the client name. Now, from now on, all the sheets will start out with case plan 4 client name. Okay, let's try it again. I'm going to close out the template. I'm going to go back into our form. I'm actually going to close out this first client here. I'm going to go in assessment. It says submit another response. We will. And we're going to call this 2 client. First name. We'll give them a middle initial of P. Once again, we open up the case notes folder, and we'll see that now it's generated 2 forms right here, 2 client. Open it up, and it says, just like we put in the template, case plan 4, 2 client first name. And this is all his assessment information. Now, what do we do if we need to get case notes underneath here to follow up his case plan? That's what we're going to go back into the case notes form in order to append all this. We want to append all the information. We want to have his name up top, all his assessment information. We want every case note to be sent here just for this particular client right here. Okay, I'm going to close out of this. So far we have 2 clients, 1 client and 2 client, and we have their respective information. We also have in case notes 2 documents named after them that we can add additional case notes for that'll be specific for each one of these individuals. What we're going to do is we're going to populate our client name here in the case notes form with the names that are in the case notes folder. Okay, so when we have everything set up, each one of these names are going to actually populate the names here. Okay, so how are we going to populate these names? Well, we're going to have to use another add-on, and that add-on is going to be called Doc Appender. We have to go here and go into add-ons, and we're going to shop for it. It should be free. But let's go look for Doc Appender. There's Doc Appender right there. And we're going to give Doc Appender permission to modify our form. It gives us information about Doc Appender. We just click Got It. We're going to go in here. We're going to hit Doc Appender, open sidebar, and here it is. It's going to ask us for a target doc folder. We already have one. As we mentioned, it's our case notes folder. We're not going to ask it to create a new one for us. We're going to select Pick from Drive. It gives us a list of our folders. We're going to select Case Notes. Select. All right. It's chosen it. So we're going to go and hit Next. Doc Appender wants us to select a question. And this question must be a list question. Inside our Case Notes form here, inside this form we have 2 lists. One is the client name, which is the one we want, and the other one is the staff member, which is already populated by the other add-on we have called Form Ranger. But this time we're going to populate client name with the Doc Appender. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit Select Question. We're going to select Refresh. Now we're going to try to hit Select Question. Okay, and it selected 2 lists One was, as we said, the client name. The other one was staff member. What we want is client name. We're going to go hit save and populate selected question. And as you see, it populates our client name here with the 2 clients that we had just assessed up here in Google Drive. It came out of the folder called Case Notes, and their name is the title of each document. Their name is also going to appear here under client name in our Case Notes form. Suppose I would have went up here and I would have changed this name to something else. If I would have changed this name down here in our Case Notes, we're talking about the file name, the document name, that name change here would have corresponded to be the same here. Once it refreshed, it would have been something different. And the difference is what we would have changed it to back here. Let me just illustrate that. I'm going to actually change the name of this client. I'm just going to say to client, and I'm going to say okay. Now I've changed the name of this folder. I'm going to go back into Case Notes, and I'm going to refresh client name, refresh, save and populate. Now watch this. To client here. See, the change corresponded back into the client name. Okay, actually what I'm going to do is go back and, well, I'm not going to worry about changing it back because it's not going to hurt anything leaving it like that. We're going to go next, and before we do this, I want to mention that it will auto refresh hourly on each form submit, just like it did with Form Ranger. If we want this to be updated, we either have to submit a form, and when we hit submit, then it'll refresh this list, or wait for the top of every hour and this will be refreshed. Or we can go back in Doc Appender if we want it refreshed immediately and simply just hit refresh list here. So the weakness of this is that it's not always instantaneous. If you just did an assessment 5 minutes ago and you haven't submitted any case notes and the top of the hour hasn't come across yet, then if you want that name to appear here under case notes under client name, you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to refresh the list manually under Doc Appender. We're going to hit next, and now it's going to ask us what parts of this form do we want to include in the document. Do we want the client name, the date, the staff member, and the case note, as well as the automatic timestamp? We could, if we wanted, we could select all of them. The page plus the file name of every client is named after the client right here. So there's really no reason to choose client name. We're going to uncheck that. And the timestamp, we've already included the date, the case note date here, so we're not going to worry about the timestamp either. If we want the time here in the case note, we'll simply go here and we will, well, let's minimize this. We'll go here and we'll include the time. And why don't we do that? Let's just include the time, and there it is. Now under Doc Appender, go back up, and we don't need the timestamp, we don't need the client name included in the client plan sheet, or I should say the client case plan sheet. We will use these three to designate a new case note for every client in their case plan sheet. The next thing we want to go to is to decide how we want it formatted. Now down here, there is 3 ways to format. There is separate bulleted list, separate vertical tables, and rows in a single horizontal table. I personally like the separate vertical tables myself, and I'll show you what all 3 looks like here in a minute. We'll submit 3 different responses, and I'm going to hit enable. Everything is enabled. It doesn't tell us it is. It just, shades out this save changes where you can't click it anymore. You can click disable or you can click go back, but we are done, and so I'm going to click add a Doc Appender. And I'm actually going to fill some of this to show you what it does. We're going to preview. And when we preview, that's going to allow us to fill. Okay, client name. We're going to put a case note for. We're going to put it for, let's 1 client first name. Actually, 2 client here first name. Let's do that. Let's do for number 2. This is a case note to client. There it is. Now, of course, we changed their name to client here. Let's change the name over here too. To client here. And go 18. There we are. So I'm changing my mind here. Case notes. But here we are. We see this is what the case note looks like. Okay. We're going to say this is separate vertical tables. That's what this looks like. We're going to go into another case note. Actually, go here. We're going to submit another response. And we're going to do it to client there again. Separate bulleted lists. I'm going to submit it. Go back into here. Go back into this client here, actually. And this is what the separate bulleted list looks like. It's got a line, plus it has the bulleted. And it puts everything in bold. That's part of the question, and the answer is not bold, just like we did here in the assessment part. I'm going to show you the other one. We're going to go Case Notes folder, and this time we're going to choose rows in a single horizontal table. Save changes. Go back up here, and we're going to do that first. Rows in a single horizontal table. Now we're going to just fill out the rest. We're going to do this for to client. We got our case note in, and we're going to submit. Go back into the to client here, and we're going to watch it appear, and there it is. Okay. Now, as you can see, this isn't very good. The rows in a single horizontal table selection does not work for our purposes here. You can either choose here a separate bulleted list, or you can put separate vertical tables, which is what I like. It's my favorite. And every time you submit a new case note, it gets appended to his file here under his case plan. We're going back into case note. Once again, we're going to go back in, and we're going to choose separate vertical tables, save changes, and everything looks good. This concludes part 2 of the case management system.